Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. This here is the third day of my 2018 solo cross-continent road trip. I had the forethought on this particular day to record a little intro, so I'll let my past self catch us up once again. Alright, day 3. I am in Lincoln, Nebraska. The bike is doing okay. At this point she seems to be doing pretty well. There's some minor electronic issues. Every once in a while I can't start the bike, I gotta fiddle with a batch of wires. So there must be some kind of short in there or something, but I don't have time or energy right now to pull it all apart and figure it out. So I'm just gonna get on with my day. But yeah, see you guys on the road. Well, this has been the longest episode so far. I've spent a few extra days trying to trim it down. The funny part is, this happens to be one of the shorter riding days. Let me adjust my riding pants here quickly, and I'll explain. Up bright and early, feeling great, and all the maintenance done, I got underway shortly after sunrise. Today will also mark the first time on the trip that I don't ride into the night. So the day on the bike was shorter, but I also learned a thing or two, or relearned, and was able to capture far more content for today's ride. And even though today isn't jam-packed full of all the spectacular scenery one might imagine when I ride through Colorado and Arizona, it certainly wasn't short of wonderful views and awe-inspiring moments. I'm mighty curious what I was attempting to communicate to myself here through hand motions, but I imagine it's a slight concern about the weather I might be riding into, but we'll just see how she goes. Nebraska is not just a prairie state. I learned that in earnest on the ride today. The land rolls with all sorts of different topography and breaks in the seemingly monotonous fields of corn. And though today's roads seem mostly flat and straight, there is just enough movement to keep my backside from complaining too loudly. Today also saw a few opportunities for me to record some narration on the road back in 2018. Though to be fair, the sound quality suffers, but ramblings of a solo rider can be amusing all the same. Alright. Here we go. So, I'm about hour and a half into my day today. I mean on the road. My day on the road. I've been up for longer than that. It just took me a while to get going this morning. Oil problem is still occurring. I've noticed there's a leak in the front portion of my bike in the engine that I've never messed with. It makes me worry that oil is leaking out of there now. I've rationalized in my head that it's
It's the used, sheared, extremely hot oil under a lot of pressure that's finding a way out. And that when I properly do my oil change and filter change and all that kind of stuff, that it hopefully will resolve that. But at this point, it's just me guessing. I lost my glasses. It's a big bummer. I can't for my life of me fathom what I did with them. So not my nighttime glasses, but my daytime sunglasses. I lost those. Luckily, those are, I mean, I really like the pair that I had. They fit in my helmet quite well. So it's frustrating that they're gone, but I'll survive, that's for sure. I'm taking a slightly less curvy route today, though I'm still avoiding motorways. Want to get through Nebraska as quick as I can and get into Colorado, because I feel like if I'm in Colorado by tonight, and I set off tomorrow within Colorado, there's very little chance that I wouldn't make it Sedona. I don't know. I might be misjudging the distance that I have to travel through Colorado and Utah. Or the time, I guess I should say, that it would take to do that trip. Because for all I know, the scenic route in Colorado is just super time consuming. Which in many ways I would be fine with. That is part of the point in this whole trip. But I'm also very, very aware that I've got some kind of fiscal and time constraints with all of this. Okay, I'm concerned about the weather there. As you guys can kind of see, I have lucked out with the weather. It was supposed to be the worst weather I could imagine on this trip. And by saying this, if I had any sense of superstition or something, may very well fuck me over, but I don't. So, if it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain. If it's not, it's not. But this sky is gorgeous. The weather today is so nice. It's not that hot. Like the last couple of days have been really, really, really hot. Even coming in through Michigan and Iowa, which I thought, right, these aren't places that are specifically known for being really hot. It's really, really, really hot. So that's that.
Returning to an issue that had arisen earlier, my riding pants keep riding up. So a little creativity resolves that to my current satisfaction, and we can get underway again. Bear with me for a moment here. Our chin camera is suffering from slight coating of bug guts. I'll be sure to resolve that when we stop up here for gas. This tank is a mixed blessing on trips like this. If you have a much larger tank, you then need to have the presence of mind and discipline to pull over regularly to stretch. If you don't, you'll regret it by the end of day 1, let alone week 2. However, with this tank, pushing past 150 kilometers before refueling is asking for problems in the middle of nowhere. So I have opportunities to stretch and move around often enough.
Very friendly people, and I'm about to tick over to 89,000 kilometers. So there's 2 points in this video.
A very exciting moment for me back in 2018. Moles was about to tick over 89,000 kilometers. Less than 4 months later, she was well over 100,000 kilometers and due for a rebuild. But that's a whole different video series to come. Also back in 2018, this YouTube channel didn't exist, but I did have lots of family, friends, and fellow motorcycle enthusiasts that really encouraged me to take this trip. Midday, I'd wanted to say thanks to them. Alright, I just wanted to take a moment. I'm on a dirt road here, so it's going to be some slow going for a little while, but I wanted to take a moment and thank everyone. Thank you so much for your encouraging words and your safety tips, and just kind of caring that I'm making it where I'm making it. It's making this already incredible unforgettable adventure and journey into something spectacular. So I just wanted to thank everyone, and I can't wait to actually meet up and explain all the mistakes I've made along the way. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks. Miles of dirt ahead of me. This was going to be a nice, casual ride through the backcountry, and I loved every second of it. Malls also handled it well, but shortly after hitting pavement again, I convinced myself otherwise. Thinking I heard and felt some knocking, I pulled off to check. Everything seemed fine, cut the engine, collected my thoughts, and then when I went to start out again, no start. Lucky for me, it was just fatigue and forgetting to check if I was in neutral. Minutes later, I rolled into Colorado. It's easy to think, in your head, that the lines on a map are significant in some way. If not for the sign, I wouldn't have noticed that I crossed a state line. From here, Colorado slowly and steadily climbs into the Rockies, but it's gradual enough that it's hard to notice. You can feel it on the bike. She struggles just a bit more, both with the incline and the increased elevation. But knowing I was in Colorado was a relief, and I took a moment to call my dad and have just a few minutes of human interaction.
So I just got off the phone with my dad. Gave him a call. It is 41 degrees and a heat wave in Arizona right now. He is telling me not to rush. So I think I'm gonna get into Fort Collins tonight. I'll grab another motel, use the Wi-Fi, and then plan 2-day trip from Fort Collins to Sedona through the mountains of Colorado and Utah. So hopefully my days, the next 2 days, will be significantly shorter than the days I've had leading up to this, because I don't need to cover the same kind of distance that I needed to before. So that'll be cool. I am in Colorado now. Like this is stereotypically what I thought Nebraska was going to be like, and what I imagine Kansas is like. But now, since I got into Colorado, it's just this. There's nothing breaking it up. I know Colorado has a lot to offer. It's a phenomenal state from everything that I know about it, but looking at the map, it doesn't look like it gets all that interesting until about Fort Collins, and then after that. This is what happens when you do turn your audio off from your headset, and that's the thing that's been cueing you for turns and stuff on your GPS. It's a poor excuse, because I should be far more aware of what's happening, and I should have known that that turn was coming up. However, I did not. All right. So now we're getting off the main road. Like that was an actual highway. This is considered a county road. I prefer these. Honestly, I spend too much of today on highways. Like I said, I really needed and wanted to ensure that I got to Colorado. That was my goal today. And these changes that I made to the motorcycle, it's fucking with my hip a little bit, I think. If I remember correctly, though, I had similar issues on previous road trips on this space before the modifications. But it's not fucking with my shoulders, my back, and my arm as much. This is a far more natural position. Plus, now that I've fixed my forks, I can do this. I can kind of shake my arm out a little bit. Okay. This was not what I expected, but okay. It's not loose gravel. It's somehow adhered down. That's interesting. I mean, it looks so new. It doesn't seem like an existing long-term road. It even has these things in it, like they're intending to put a line eventually, but they haven't done it yet, so they have the little bump thing so you can hear when you go over the middle. But yet it's so unfinished. Huh. Cool. That blinker was still on. It happens. I'm wondering when I'm going to actually start seeing the mountains. I'm over 4,000 feet now, and I'm constantly climbing in elevation. So we'll see when I have to start adjusting my idle mix from a lack of air compared to what Moles is used to. I really, really enjoy this lone time, but I also, it reminds me just how much the human connections that I do have mean so much to me. That was too funny. Talking on the phone was the longest conversation I've had with anybody, and the most in-depth conversation I've had with anybody since I left Canada. Pretty sure. It was only like 10 and a half minutes, but like, I haven't talked to anybody else that much. Certainly not about the things that we talked about, so wow. You don't realize just how lonely you are until suddenly you've got somebody that you can talk to, you know? And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, once this conversation ends, I go back to being completely alone. What is that? This is another cool thing that I saw driving through the Midwest. It's like when a building becomes dilapidated and ceases functioning as a building in any sense of the term. My gut would say, tear it down, recycle the material that you can, and move on with your day. But it's like people just leave it. They're like, all right, that one's done. Move on. I don't get it. I don't know if some of those dilapidated buildings, the ones that are all by themselves, not on someone's farm or something like that, are been abandoned years ago or something, and that's why they've fallen into that state, or they fell into that state, and then that's why people left. I'm not sure. But then often you'll see just destroyed silos or barns and stuff on people's property. Like they've got a newer, not necessarily new, but like a newer series of structures, and the old ones are still there. Now, granted, a lot of times those old ones are wood, and if the wood's rotten and falling apart, then I mean, it's not necessarily going to be any use to you, right? But quite often those silos and stuff are steel or tin or something. And I imagine you'd be able to recycle that shit. You also see loads of just abandoned machinery and stuff. It just makes me think about scrappers up north. They'll scrap people's bicycles just to get the metal off of it. And yet, in the Midwest, you just park something on the little off the side of the road somewhere and forget about it. That's interesting. And if any of this actually makes it into a video or something like that, then awesome, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you supporting me in any way that you do, whether it's just commenting or wishing me luck on my trips or whatever it is. You guys don't realize the kind of support, what that means when you undertake something silly like what I'm doing. So it's much appreciated, and I look forward to I don't know. I look forward to more content for you guys.
The gradual incline was slowly turning into proper inclines, with great curves in the roads and darkening skies above. Up until this point on the trip, I had really lucked out with weather. Some really hot days and light rain was about the worst that I'd had to experience, and for anyone familiar with long-distance motorcycle road trips, it just doesn't happen that way. You can plan and plan and plan, and you will still end up in the shittiest of weather at some point. You can really only hope that your luck keeps those events to a minimum, and that it's nothing that would make continued progress dangerous in any way. Almost more miserable than riding through bad weather is being stuck stationary in it. And it was just about here that my luck began to turn. The weather I was skirting was closing in. I vividly remember riding towards Fort Collins and just hoping that arch of clear weather ahead of me would stay just that, ahead of me, and that the weather closing in on both sides would hold off just a bit longer. But what's Murphy's Law but a full rundown of how a motorcycle trip should turn out? Rain and wind are one thing. They aren't comfortable, they aren't optimal, but they are manageable within reason. Hail, however, hurts. It hurts your hands, and your chest, and your legs, and that's all with riding gear on. Pulling over to put on some thicker gloves, this was also just about where the chin camera died, and the rain prevented a mid-ride charge. We've got nothing but my ugly mug to look at from here on. I stopped a few times throughout this ordeal, any point where hail and rain made it too dangerous to continue, but slowly and surely I made it out of the rain and into the still setting sun. Another day done, another state under my belt, and a warm shower ahead. I will see you all on another day in colorful Colorado. If you like the content you're seeing on the channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps immensely. A special thanks to all the cagers that played nicely, to my dad for being there for me on this day and every other day, and to Purple Planet for all the great music clips. And as always, ride safe and ride fun, and we'll see you next time.